We're starting a new series today about spiritual formation, about how God shapes our lives, how we can open ourselves to God to have a life that is blessed, a life that flourishes, a life that's connected to God and other people. So I have to start by asking you, how are those New Year's resolutions going? Because if you're like most people, I think the figure is like about 70%. By this point in January, those New Year's resolutions have gone out the window. They have just stopped motivating. And or maybe you're like me and you just gave up on New Year's resolutions a long time ago because it's just not an inspiring, helpful thing to do. Because New Year's resolutions are based on the all-American way of thinking, which is try harder. Just try harder. If you just worked a little harder, if you just had a little more willpower, if you just focused a little bit more, then you'd be able to do it. Now, granted, there are some people for whom that works. I mean, all of us probably know somebody who at some point just decided that on a Thursday afternoon that they were going to quit smoking, and boom, they did it, and they never had another cigarette. There are people that can do that. There are people that can make those decisions and through sheer force of willpower be successful. But that's not most of us. And let's be honest. Most of those people that can do it through sheer force of willpower, they are no fun to be around. Because they're always saying to you, well, you could do it, I could do it, you could do it, be better. Be better. Work harder. But it just doesn't work. And it works even less in our spiritual lives. It works even less in our spiritual lives. You know, sometimes the message of American Christianity is, God's good, you're bad, try harder. And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And the thing is you have already, all of you, have already admitted that this doesn't work. Because in the confession, you said, we are in captivity to sin and cannot free ourselves. Notice how we slipped that in under the wire at the beginning of the service. We're in captivity to sin and can't free ourselves. That's what Paul is writing about in the letter to the Romans that Mr. Davis read from. It's, we want to do the right thing. A lot of times we know what the right thing is to do, and we have a desire to do it, but we do the wrong thing anyway. We're of two minds. We're of two minds. We want something that's good, but then, well, we want something else too. You know, I really, really want to eat healthy. It's January 11th. I've been going for 10 days and haven't had any sugar. And then some clown offers me a piece of raspberry chocolate cheesecake. Or, you know, I'm going to the gym. I'm doing it. I'm scanning my little card, going to the gym every morning. And then I wake up and it's 19 degrees. Yeah. Just don't do it. Or, you know, I really, really want to be more patient with my kids. I want to be more patient. But, you know, when they just keep going and going and going and going and going, you just... It's tough. It's tough. We're of two minds. And the solution is not try harder. And Paul knew this. Paul doesn't say try harder. Paul doesn't say if you just knew the law a little bit better, you'd be okay. If you just had a little more willpower and struggled a little bit more, you'd be okay. No, he says, thanks be to God because Jesus Christ sets us free. Because God pours His Spirit into our lives and gives us new possibilities of freedom. That's the way that it works out. That's the way that change actually happens. When we realize that we are not condemned, but instead that we are loved and accepted. And it's out of that place of knowing that we are loved, knowing our real identity as beloved children of God, that we have the freedom to move in a new direction, that we have the freedom to do things differently, that we have the ability to have a different kind of life. That's really what Jesus is talking about. You know, Jesus is talking about basically worrying about money. Now, I know that none of you ever do that. Nobody here has any anxiety around that. But Jesus notice Jesus doesn't say, you know, if you're worrying about money, it's basically that you're not worshiping God and you should quit being greedy and you should just try harder. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say that at all. He says, you know, if you really realized how much God cares for you, if you realized how important you are to Him, if you realize how special you are, you'd be able to look at the world in a different way. You wouldn't have that anxiety. You know, he says, think about it. Think about how God just cares for things like birds. Now, yes, do birds sometimes die premature deaths? Sure. But by and large, the birds do pretty well. I was sitting here this week, and this flock of starlings or sparrows, I don't know what they were. They were little itty-bitty birds. Literally like about 60 or 70 little birds swooped out of the sky and landed right on the lawn, right in front of, like this little piece of lawn right in front of the doors there. And they just started pecking at the ground. I don't know what the heck they're eating. It didn't look like there was anything there. But they were taken care of. They were okay. They not only survived, but they thrived. And Jesus basically says to us, if that's the way the heart of God is, if that's the way the heart of God is toward you, you have the freedom. You have the freedom to let go of those things that would drag you down. You have the freedom to look at the world in a different way and to be set free. That part of the reality is that it is a struggle for us, but trying harder isn't the answer. Opening ourselves up to the reality of God's love for us is the thing that will truly set us free. Because God is the one who does the heavy lifting. God is the one who clears the way for us. Jesus is the one who frees us from bondage. Thanks be to God.